Alright guys, welcome back to another comic review. Another comic once again sent to us by our good friend from the channel, Chris, aka the Mount Vernon Kid. Chris, I know you're watching, those. Thank you so much for this. Today I'm going to be reviewing a Zenescope comic called Escape from Monster Island. Now, Escape from Monster Island, it's kind of up in the air if this takes place in the Grimm universe, or it could be its own continuity, and that's what I like. If you're getting into Zenescope comics, is that this would probably be a good way to look into it, because the Grimm universe is kind of extensive. Hell, the first book I read had some moments where I was like, really? Where do I go? Okay, I have to read that, okay. So yeah. So, the Grimm universe is kind of extensive. But here, this is a very one-and-done, very self-contained. It could or could not be in the Grimm universe. So yeah, I think this is very reader-accessible if you want to get into Zenescope comics, and this is not the typical over-sexualized. Although, I will admit that Zenescope, while they do kind of do the TNA a little too much, they do actually have good story behind it. It's not like the, pictures over story kind of thing. So I'll give them that. I've always given Zenescope that. So anyway, the story is that for years the government has held a island. There's been an unmarked island that's been like a prison for different monsters, not just kaiju, but not kaiju, but more like monsters like werewolves, swamp monsters, giant, Bigfoots, Cyclops, Yeti, all of that, and even elves and orcs are on this island. And for the island, the monsters rebelled. They managed to rebel, and for 5 years it's been on quarantine and lockdown. But this barrier that was keeping the monsters sealed in is starting to break apart. And now the government's a little freaked out by that. But before the government can drop a nuke and call it a day, a billionaire sends in a crack team of mercenaries into the island to get the actual cure from cancer they got from the Cyclops' blood. And chaos ensues from there. What I like about this comic is that it's a neat little concept. It's a neat idea of having, rather than just be like, oh, it's just one type of monster. It's every type of monster all together. They're all here, and a lot of them are sentient. A lot of them do have their own thoughts and feelings. In fact, they even talk about how the monsters essentially were like, yeah, you kind of fucked us, we had our own feelings, and a lot of us were kind of just mistreated like animals. We were not animals. There is a difference between an animal and a monster, and trust me, you humans are the worst of the worst. So, that's what I like about it. Now, the main villain antagonist of this is the Elf Queen. That's what they just call her, the Elf Queen, who has, for the past 5 years, united all the monsters under one banner, and she's essentially done the impossible and is ready to go Magneto on the rest of mankind. She is just all kinds of ready to essentially go all Magneto on the rest of the human race, and they don't know about the nuclear bomb about to be dropped on them. What we also have in here is a monster called Zorn, and Zorn is from a race of monsters that are only known as species X41, and it's very cool of what the story arc of, because this is very much Zorn's story, because he was the leader of his kind. And what's interesting to note is that Zorn's people, there are no, he says that they're outside, in the outside world, there are still werewolves, there are still elves, there are still orcs. But outside of this island, my people are gone. My people are no more. There is no more of our species. We had no name, and we are the last of our kind, and I abandoned my kind for 5 years. So, I like that. I like that Zorn is very much a focal point of this. The mercenary team, here's one of the problems I have with this comic, is that none of the characters feel fleshed out, aside from the leader named Merrick, and the doctor we have in here, who's their guide, / did work on the island. Aside from those two, everyone else feels like cannon fodder. Really, when someone dies, I have to be like, oh no, not... I'm sorry, who are you again? They all feel like they're just here to be cannon fodder. Like, everyone here, don't get attached unless it's the captain named Merrick. So, really, everyone here, like, I, honest to God, forget their names the moment they die, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you again? Like, that's my problem. And also, some of this comic, even though it's a 6-issue series, it does feel like they cram a little too much in here. while it does feel like, yeah, 6 issues should feel like enough, for some reason it just feels like they want to get to point A to point B really quickly. And sometimes they cram too much in too little time. So, I don't know. Also, the artwork can be kind of a mess. The artwork, while at some points it looks good, like for some of the characters, there are other times, facially wise, it looks bad. Like, there's one little girl in here who, they say she has cancer, so maybe that's what the artist was trying to bring out, but I was like, oh no, I thought that was his wife, like, or at least his mom or something, but no, not the daughter. Ooh, that's not how you draw someone with cancer, artist. Yeah, so... it's still I think it's still a fun comic. If you're a fan of just some fun monster gore, trust me, you'll get that in here. There's some fun monster action, and it's a neat concept. It's pretty much kind of like Oz mixed with Jurassic Park. So if you're into something like that, I would say I recommend this comic for those who are fans of like just multiple monsters. And like I said before, this is a nice comic to start on, because like I said before, if you want to read Zenoscope comics, this is probably one of the first ones you want to read, because this is very much like a baby's first Zenoscope comic, kind of. Like that's one way of describing it. So I do, on that I recommend it. So yeah, like I said, it's not really like they keep it up in the air if it's in continuity or not. So yeah. But anyway, there's my review, guys. Chris, I want to thank you once again for sending me this comic to review. And if you're new here, remember to Hulk smash that subscribe button, be a part of Earth's Mighty Subscribers, share across all forms of social media. I'm DPZ, and I will see you right here once more here in the YOUniverse.